Hello and welcome to episode 64 of the Spotlight Games podcast. Today is a special episode, my friends. Today is our last episode of calendar year 2022, which means it is time to bring back a beloved episode, which is the Spotlight Games of the Year Award presented by the Golden Beefies.
The Golden Beefies.
The Golden Beefies are back, baby. And we wouldn't be able to give out the Golden Beefies without my sweet dumpster boy, Kamen Darty. Kamen, how are you, my friend?
Man, I'm fantastic. Christmas is over, Patrick. Guess what?
Christmas
I
is
don't have to
over.
worry about anymore.
Gifts?
You're absolutely fucking right. I don't have to worry about that. I was terrible this year. Like I just had given up. If you just you've been feeling like during Christmas, you just fucking give up.
Yeah.
You're just I'm done. I'm sorry. You buy a certain amount of presents and eventually you just hit a wall where you're like, I don't know what to do anymore. I lack imagination, creativity, or willpower. So everyone left on my Christmas list is fucked. You guys are getting trash.
Sure.
I'm sorry. Sucks.
No, I get that. I don't want to necessarily, I don't want this to come across as like I'm better than you. But this year I felt really good about Christmas. Like I feel like I nailed it. I haven't been able to give you your gift yet because I haven't seen you.
Fair.
But I feel like for the people that I got gifts for, I feel like I did good this year.
Good.
And I don't want that to come across as tooting my own toot. But
speaking of toot and toots, Patrick, let me tell you one of my Christmas gifts I got this year.
Yeah, tell me, baby.
I got a bidet.
Ooh.
Have you used a bidet? Do you have a bidet?
So I have a funny story about bidets. So I've used a bidet once in my life, and I own one. I don't think the person that got me the bidet listens to our podcast, but it's a friend of ours from high school, Miles. Miles got me a bidet as like a housewarming gift, and I've just been so lazy. I keep forgetting to install it. So I have a bidet probably 30 feet from me right now that is just sitting in my bathroom uninstalled. But we, in 2016 or 2017, we visited the country of Italy, Rose and I. And I was so excited because I was like, I can finally use a bidet. Because back then, it doesn't seem like that long ago, but back then, like bidets weren't super common in America, like they are now because of like Tushy and whatever. And I was like, I'm going to get to use a bidet. It's going to be great. There's going to be just warm water cleaning my buttocks.
Sure.
And it's like right there on the seat because I always thought bidets were the way bidets are in Japan everywhere. But in Europe, bidets are their own tiny little toilet on the ground. And so I'm in this bathroom in Florence, probably, I think the first place we went to was Venice. So we're in Venice and I'm like, I go in there, I'm like, all right, can't wait to use a fucking bidet. And I see the toilet and I see this like literally. So if like we all know the height of a regular toilet, the bidet goes up to like your shin.
Oh,
it's like really, really low.
So you're really squatting on.
You're really squatting down for this bidet, unless I'm misremembering. But so I'm like, and I'm looking at this thing, and I use the toilet, and I'm like, wait, where's the bidet? And then I see this other thing. I'm like, wait a second, this must be the bidet. I have a complete misconception about what a bidet is. So am I supposed to get up with my fucking dirty butt and go to this other thing to use it? And so I do that, and the water is ice fucking cold. And so I haven't used a bidet since because I've not had the luxury of using a warm bidet. So I toss it back to you. Tell me about your bidet.
So I got this. So Sid got me a bidet. You can do two options through Tushy. You can get one that's doesn't regulate the water temperature, one that does, and we have the one that doesn't. And I will say, it is startling.
Yeah. Especially honestly, right now with the historic low temperatures.
Yeah, but it's not that bad. Like it's not like you get like once you use it a few times, like you get used to it. But the story though is how we put it on.
Okay.
So it's Sydney nights. It's we did our Christmas on Friday before Christmas. So before Christmas Eve is when we did our Christmas together.
Yep.
So we installed the bidet on the toilet. We're supposed to sit in there, and I was like, where does it shoot out from? And like, how do you know how like much you need to like turn the knob for you to like flash your asshole? So I'm looking at the manual and I'm like, okay, so it's like it says to turn the knob slowly until you have the desired pressure that you want.
Mhm.
So Sid's like, okay, this knob, and just cranks that motherfucker up. It shoots water out of the toilet, dousing me head to toe in
Yep.
toilet water.
Yep.
And that was my first experience with a bidet.
Freezing cold toilet water, I'm
Yes.
sure.
And it was a little terrifying.
Oh my
Well, it was
god.
incredibly terrifying because I was like, wow, that is a lot of pressure. And I
Yeah, I
will
think
say that, if you do adjust it a little too high, it is not as pleasant of an experience as you
I'm
imagine.
sure. I just think if you're a couple feet from the toilet and that drenched you, think
Yeah.
about it being, like, right there. That pressure right on your ooh.
Yeah, yeah. So, but either way, I've used it several times now, and I have to say, it is a delight. And
Yeah?
the thing is it cleans, and you just leave it on for a few seconds. It
Sure.
cleans incredibly well, and then you just take one small slice, just one small slice,
Yeah.
and then you just dry your asshole with it,
No
and then
sloppy mud pies with
no sloppy
a
mud pies in this household, Patrick.
wow. You can use too small a slice.
You do. You're supposed to use too small a
Wow.
slice.
How about that?
There's no
Well,
sloppy mud pies.
I'm thrilled for you. I can't when I bring you your gift, I can't wait to take a shit in your house so I can
Please.
use your ice
Yeah.
cold today.
I'll even sit
Um,
in there with you and hold your hand through the process.
please, the whole something. Uh, okay, so why don't we jump into the show? We have a lot of video game stuff to talk about because this is the Spotlight Games podcast where each week we spotlight the latest and the greatest in the world of video games and ass cleaning devices. You can get it by subscribing to our YouTube channel at Spotlight Games Pod or by searching for Spotlight Games in your favorite podcast app. And hey, you can be on the show by tuning in as we record live Tuesdays at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, unless we're late, on twitch.tv/Spotlight Games Pod. So be sure to follow us there so that you're notified when we're going live, so you can be part of the conversation. Kamen, I'm getting the little Wi-Fi boy. Am I chopping? Am I roboting?
You're not chopping, you're not roboting, your camera's a little janky.
Okay,
But
I can live with a janky camera as long as I'm not
you're good.
roboting around. Kamen, as I mentioned at the top of the show, special episode today.
Yes.
It's the 2022 Spotlight Games of the Year Award presented by the Golden Beefies. We have compiled our top 10 lists of video games from the year 2022 with a numerical value. Number 1 getting 10 points, all the way down to number 10 getting 1 points. I've combined both my list and Kamen's list and compiled the master list that is the top 10 games from Spotlight Games Podcast. So we're going to go through them, but we have a little extra spice to add into it, which is some other awards that we're going to be sprinkling in throughout the show. So, Kamen, what do you say we just jump right in and start talking about our top 10 video games
It
of
sounds
2022?
wonderful. It sounds wonderful, Patrick. I think we should
Perfect.
do just that.
But before we jump in, let's say hey to Terry in the chat. Hey, Terry. Let me know if my audio gets spotty at any point because that thing is still there. I'm going to kind of, what do you call it? I'm going to vamp while I, on my phone, open up my little Wi-Fi app and tell my Wi-Fi to prioritize my device in this house, even though I'm connected with a wire. I'm wired in, Kamen. I'm wired into the matrix.
Your
And so I'm
Wi-Fi
surprised. I'm surprised, right? Because I'm like, I'm not using
Inescapable.
Wi-Fi. I'm using ice cold fucking.
Well,
what
you
do call
look
it?
good. You look
good.
great.
Good. Kamen, I do want to say before we jump into this list, it's a fun list because we both, like I said, put in 10 video games, and we only shared 3 out of 10 each. So we have the top few are going to be like, they're well ahead of the rest of the pack in terms of points. And then it's like, cause it's just our own games that we played. So I'm excited to do this. So I'm finishing off this thing. There it is. Prioritize device. Thanks AT&T for letting me prioritize the device. Maybe I'll cut this. Maybe not. Who's to say? Okay. Kamen, are you prepared for the number 10 video game? Actually, let's start with honorable mentions. This Wi-Fi thing has really put me all over the place. Kamen, from our lists combined, our first honorable mention, Kirby and the Forgotten Lands, released on the Nintendo Switch. This was on my list. This was my number 10.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, did you? I forget if you played Kirby.
It did actually.
You did play Kirby.
Yes, you lent me your copy.
That's right.
Yeah,
That's right.
and yeah, Kirby's here's the thing. Kirby's a fun game. It's a
Yeah.
fun game.
Yeah.
It doesn't overstay its welcome.
Mm-hmm.
It's very cute. It's just maybe a little too childish, or
Sure.
like I think there's I feel like here's the thing with like Mario, for instance. I feel like a kid can play Mario, right? It's kind of designed for that, but they give you more to it so that you like adults or people who are way better at the game can like play the game more in like a more in-depth way, right?
Yeah.
Feel like that was missing in Kirby this year.
Sure.
And so that's why it didn't make my top 10, but I had a really good time with what when I
Yeah.
played it. Yeah.
I think the reason that it snuck into mine is because I had never really played Kirby. The last time I played a Kirby game was on like the Game Boy Color,
Mhm.
like 20 years ago. And it was getting buzz. The video game bees were buzzing about how good this game was. And so I got it and I had a lot of fun with it. But specifically the last like hour of that video game is just completely chaotic and unhinged. And that last like hour has really stuck with me, and like really great music too.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things where I look at other games that have come out this year that I just didn't get a chance to play, things like the Callisto Protocol or things like
Mhm.
Marvel's Midnight Suns, where I'm
Sure.
like, I would be willing to bet those games have a good chance of like, if I come back to this list in say 2 months, I would not be surprised if Kirby was not on this list anymore. But
Yeah, that's fair. That's
yeah,
super fair.
but yeah, so that's our first honorable mention. Our second honorable mention, your number 10,
Mhm.
Saints Row, the video game, the reboot.
It'll come up later in the
It will.
conversation, and we
It
could
will.
talk about it then, but, I just
Yeah,
have
I
a
mean,
soft spot.
yeah. We'll talk about that. Our third honorable mention, Immortality, a video game that I talked about a couple weeks ago. This was my number 9. I've still not rolled credits. I've with my list. I think every game but this game I finished. But this is
Mhm.
one. I really loved how different it was, and I really, even though I've not finished it, I felt like it was worth, at the very least, an honorable mention. And I want to drive home if this is a game that you're interested in at all. Give it a shake. Our number 2 honorable mention. This is actually a tie between The Quarry
Mhm.
and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Shredder's Revenge.
Fuck yeah. Well,
TMNT is actually a game I didn't get to play, and that's on my
really?
list. It's on. I played it. I mean, that's technically not true. I played it for like 15 minutes on my phone testing out Xbox Cloud gameplay, and I just like kind of forgot about it. And so that's a game when we have some downtime in 2023, I will definitely be circling back to TMNT. And I'm curious, is the Quarry, because I know
Mhm.
you loved Until Dawn. Is the Quarry
Yeah.
something that you're going to be getting into next year?
Oh, 100%, yeah.
Yeah,
I think my issue with the Quarry this time around was just a lack of I think mainly it was just a lack of time. It came
sure.
out right at my wedding,
Yep.
and I just had no time, and there was other things that were going on at the same time that we were kinda trying to get through and do, and it was one that I just put on the back burner, and, it's been marked down a few times. I've been very close to purchasing it
Sure.
just to
Sure.
get it, but yeah, it's definitely a game. We did a Detroit Become Human, Sid and I did, and she was
Oh,
not a
cool.
fan of that.
Okay.
I honestly really enjoyed that game. I understand all of the hate that the studio gets, mainly, or
Yeah.
maybe not the studio head gets.
Yeah.
He's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But like, I don't know. I like those types of games. And so the Quarry has been one that I'm very excited to. But I think, like you said, with things like Callisto Protocol, Marvel Midnight Suns, it's just one of those games that, unfortunately for me, just is going to be slipped over to 2023.
Yeah. Maybe it'll get an award next year that we'll be talking about later this show for this year.
Maybe
And
so.
then, so our final honorable mention is a game that you played. This was your number 7. Nobody Saves the World. This is a game I remember you talking a little bit
Mm.
about, but I honestly, it was so long ago and we only talked about it, I think, in one episode. I would love to hear a little bit more about Nobody Saves the World before we get into our actual top 10.
Nobody Saves the World is fucking awesome. It is one of those little games that comes around every once in a while. I would put it in the same category as something like Guacamelee,
Same
where
same studio, right?
yeah, it's just
Hell yeah.
why like they're really good at making just unique little games that are
Yeah.
just really fun. It is a couch co-op game that is so much fun to play through. You can cycle through like a whole slew of different characters that you can drop in and out of, depending on the scenario that you're in. Each character has different challenges to level it up. It's got a really fun story. The comedy is outrageously funny. To me, it is one of those little games that just, it hits all the right buttons.
Sure.
Unfortunately, this 2022 had some fucking bangers on it. And
Yeah.
as being number 7 on my list, I don't feel terrible that it didn't make it in.
This is a game I was really excited to play because I've loved every game this studio has made. Guacamelee 1, 2, and Severed.
Yeah.
There was another game that they made before Guacamelee that I don't think I ever played, but I really loved the other 3 games. And I just like totally forgot that it happened. But it's on Game Pass, so I will definitely be playing this at some point soon.
Yeah, awesome.
But came in with our honorable mentions out of the way. Let's get into the list proper with the number 10 best games from the Spotlight Games of the Year award. This is the one and only tie on this list. Number 10 is a tie with 5 points each, Cult of the Lamb and Tiny Tina's Wonderland. So this was both of our number 6.
Okay.
And this feels right to me as someone who didn't play Tiny Tina's Wonderland and as someone who did play Cult of the Lamb. And I know Terry in the chat played Cult of the Lamb. I'm going to talk a little bit about Cult of the Lamb first, and then I want to hear about Tiny Tina's. Cult of the Lamb, I think there is a world, Kamen, in which Cult of the Lamb is like number 2 on my list.
Yeah.
But there's something about a game that's fucking broken as shit.
Sure.
That I just can't, it fell down my list several spots because of that.
It's interesting you say that because Sydney's playing it right now on PlayStation 5. And she loves it.
Yeah.
And
is it still broken?
No, it performs magnificently.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think she's had a single issue so far. The game runs, it looks great. I've been watching her play through it. I've been like dying laughing at everything.
It's so good.
It looks so much fun. I don't know if it's a game for me in particular.
Sure.
But like she's been like just absolutely loving the hell out of it. And so like I 100% understand. But I also understand where you're coming from on it being broken.
Yeah.
And
I played on the Switch, which of the consoles it came out on, even when it came out, it was still kind of broken on PlayStation, but it was especially broken on Switch. And I think that Terry played it on Switch too. And man, but still, even though it like I lost so much progress in my game, it crashed like 15 times. It still is number 6 on my list. Like it was that good. But came in Tiny Tina's Wonderlands? Is it 1 or 2 Wonderlands?
It's Wonderlands.
Thank you. Tell us about it.
Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, if you've never played a Borderlands game before, then shut the fuck up and go play it right now. Borderlands is one of my favorite series of all times. It is like the perfect FPS co-op shooter. It hits all the right buttons for me. It is just a magnificent series. And Tiny Tina's Wonderlands flips the script on its head and makes the game not only just an incredible co-op FPS, but it also makes it a fucking Dungeons and Dragons game. So your characters have magic. You've got all sorts of it is in the humor is incredible. Amazing voice actors. You've got Andy Samberg. You've got Wanda Sykes. You've got Will Arnett. Like the voice acting is incredible in this game. The story is so much fun. The way that it's designed as this basically you're Dungeons and Dragons and you're doing quests and whatnot.
Yeah.
And the way that the game all of a sudden starts to become meta and starts to relay like a more emotional story about Tina is one of the coolest things I've ever seen done, especially in a series that's known for just being potty humor more often than not.
Yeah.
The way that they kind of wrote back in a lot of like Tina's going through some shit. She doesn't have many friends. And the way that she's continuing to like try to push the game forward and continue to keep the players still playing because it's like, I don't want you guys to leave yet is really touching. It's a beautiful game. And it'll come back up on a list here in a little bit.
it might just do that. So yeah, number 10, Cult of the Lamb and Tiny Tina's Wonderlands with a tie of 5 points. Kamen, what do you say it's time for the first Golden Beefy of the night?
Let's do it. Golden Beefies. We're starting off this evening, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone out there in the world who might be listening. And we're going to start off the Golden Beefies with the award for the best game from 2022 that we forgot came out in 2022. Patrick, why don't you go ahead and start us off and tell us what you chose as your Golden Beefy?
So I am giving this award. What I tried to do for the Golden Beefies, I tried to not include. Sometimes it made sense to include games from our lists, but I tried to kind of spread the love a little bit. And so for this one, I gave it to a game that we're not gonna. It's not gonna be on our list elsewhere. Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga, and the reason that this really is like it was close. This probably on my list is like 11 or 12. I've never been a Lego guy. Like I like building Legos in real life, but I've never been a Lego game guy. Like when they first came out, I had fun with a couple of them, and it was a series that I tried to get into several times because I know it was a series that you especially really liked.
Oh yeah,
and you would 100% them all the time, and it'd be like,
Yeah.
and I'd be seeing you having so much fun. Then I'm like, I really need to try these, and like I tried the Marvel one, I tried the DC superheroes and villains one, and I even tried Harry Potter, and I just something about it just would never keep me coming back. Like I would have like a fun couple hours, and then I'd be like, I don't really need to do anymore. I can't even really put my finger on what it was about the Skywalker saga. It might be that they just changed the camera perspective, honestly. Like because that's like one of the big changes from it.
Yeah.
But I 100% of this game. Like I devoured this video game and I had so much fun with it. And it's a game that I've thought about picking back up, but like there's just nothing else for me to do now because I 100% at every world. So like unless they release new content that I haven't heard of, like there's just not much else for me to do. So I'm giving the first Golden Beefy for me for the best game from 2022 that we forgot came out in 2022 to Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga. Kamen, what about you?
So for me, I'm going with Ghostwire Tokyo.
Okay.
Ghostwire Tokyo, I honestly, just gonna be straight here, never finished it. But what I can tell you is from playing the game, is that honestly, there's some really interesting and really cool ideas that happen. And I genuinely think if it wasn't for the fact that it just came out in the absolute worst fucking time it could, which was like it literally came out like, I think like a week or two after Elden Ring.
Yeah.
And like the whole world was just so involved with that this game just sat there.
Yeah.
And then I ended up picking up on sale. And unfortunately for me, just haven't had time to finish it just with the holidays and whatnot, because I just started playing it recently. But that was the thing is when we were going over this list, I was like, hold on a second. Holy fuck, this game actually came out this year.
Yeah.
Completely forgot that it even existed. I was just like, oh, it was just a game from 2021 that like flew under the radar. And I completely forgot. No, it came out this year.
Yeah.
We were just all devouring other shit.
Not only Elden Ring, Horizon Forbidden West was right before this too. So it was like there was no chance for this game.
No, this game was just kind of dumped. And that's an unfortunate reality because I do think that there's a really like an audience that would really enjoy this game. I think it's got great atmosphere. It's really cool. The gameplay mechanics are interesting enough. The story's really interesting. And it's just really cool being able to explore Shibuya with no one in it. And that is like the most haunting thing in the world. And definitely think like that this game does need a little bit of respect.
Oh, for sure.
Maybe we stop forgetting that it didn't come out.
Remember Ghostwire Tokyo. Remember Lego Star Wars: The Skywalker Saga.
That is what we
remember.
Something another. The March 11th of November. I don't know.
Correct.
Whatever.
Yep. Oh no, that's actually exactly how the saying goes. Number 9 came in. We're back to the list. Number 9, also with 5 points. You might remember number 10 had 5 points, but the reason that this one snuck ahead is because this is one of the 3 games that was on both of our lists. And that game is Pokemon Legends Arceus.
Hell yeah.
Which I think this is a great spot for Pokemon.
Yeah. Oh no, I think Arceus, so too. Honestly, it is my number 9. So
yeah, I think I had it at number 7. So I was a little bit ahead of that. But really, this is I talked several times on the podcast way back when this came out in January and a couple times throughout the year that this is the game that I think did for me what Pokemon never could, which is it kept bringing me back because this is also a game I didn't quite 100% it. I 99%ed it. There's literally one quest that I still, you gave me your copy of Pokemon, whatever, Sapphire, I think. And to unlock this other quest, I just still haven't put it in to do it. But I loved Arceus. Awesome. You also were a fan.
No, yeah, I thought Arceus was great. It was one of those, and another Pokemon game will come back up on my list later, but Arceus, I think, was like the first step in that next step, right? Like it
Yeah,
was like the baby step. I love the way that they did something new for a change that wasn't they did something new for a change that wasn't like Pokemon Snap or like Pokemon Mystery Dungeon or Pokemon Pinball. Something that was completely like the way it's designed is just very unrelated to like the way that the first and original Pokemon games were kind of existing. And so
sure.
I do really enjoy the way that they implemented that. I also enjoyed and loved the way that they did the open world catching Pokemon. I thought was just fantastic. And
I
I
agree.
think that that game does have some issues. I mainly think that the story in that game is hot garbage. Um,
Couldn't even tell you what happened, and I played it for
ex-
120 hours.
exactly. And
Yeah,
so that is, I think, one of the big reasons why it's so far down on my list
yeah,
is just like, I don't, it was like, there's a lot of elements that went right. And
yeah,
then the other half of the game, I was like, I don't really know if I'm digging that as much, but I put in a shit ton of time as well.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Big fan of Arceus. Our number 9 for this 2022 Spotlight Games of the Year award. Kamen, let's introduce another Golden Beefy. The best game we played that didn't come out in 2022.
all right. So I'm going to be a little bit of a cheater here with my Golden Beefy. The best game I played that didn't come out in 2022 is The Witcher 3 with the PS5 patch. Okay,
It
I know
kind of
what
came
you
out this year, but that's okay.
yes, and here's the thing. The game came out a fucking decade ago. Almost a decade ago. I think 9 what was the consensus we got? It was like 9 years ago.
I think it was 15. So that would
Oh
be
shit, it's
8
more.
years, 7
Okay,
years.
18.
Let me
Okay.
see.
So it's close. It's almost a decade old. So then that is the crux of the game is almost a decade old, right?
Yeah, 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 for sure.
And so sure, it does have a new code of
2014.
it's got some new okay, so yeah, so 6 8 years. No.
2015. It was supposed to come out. Sorry,
Mm,
I just cut you off hardcore, but it was supposed to
you're
come
fine.
out end of 2014, but it was pushed to February of 2015.
Okay, cool. Whatever. 7 years. Still a long time ago. It was the
Yeah,
last
no, for sure.
generation. Here's the thing with this and why I included it on the list is because even though there are some new elements that have been added in through this patch, such as some additional side quests and some additional gameplay tweaks, this is still its bones are still Witcher 3. And Witcher 3 is a goddamn masterpiece.
That was a fucking great
And so
game.
basically you just took a basically just imagine if someone went and they looked up and they saw the Sistine Chapel and they were like, this needs a fresh coat of paint. And they just did it. And then they put like every character in that painting gets Guy Fieri hair. Guess what, baby? That's The Witcher 3 with the PS5 gym patch.
Let's
It's
go.
just a better version of an already masterpiece. So that's where I stand. Patrick, what about you, my friend?
I can't believe Geralt of Rivia went to Flavortown, and I didn't realize this. So this was one of the few Golden Beefy Awards that I actually had trouble deciding what to give it to. My heart wants to say Inscription, but I talked a lot about Inscription last week, and I feel like it would be boring to hear me talk about it again. Part of me wants to give it to Silent Hill 2. Going back to Spook-like games,
Yeah.
I played it for the first time this year. Really, really loved it. But I think what I want to give it to this year is a little game called Slay the Spire.
Okay. Okay.
And the reason I want to give it to Slay the Spire, similar to Inscription, I learned something about myself this year in video games, a genre that I didn't realize I really, really fuck with, and it's deck building games. And Slay the Spire was the first one to do this for me, where I got it on the Switch. It was like $1. It was on sale, and I was having a ton of fun with it. And then I learned it was on, actually, no, I paid like $10 for it. And then I learned it was on iPhone, and it was like $15. And I was like, this game would be so much better on my iPhone. And so I paid like $15 for it on iPhone. And I, the first week, I don't know if everyone's phone does this, probably iPhones on Sunday. It'll be like, this is the amount of hours you used your phone on average per week or this week. The first week that I played Slay the Spire, my phone usage went up by like 92%
Good
because I was
Lord,
on my phone
Patrick.
like so much that week, just nonstop playing Slay the Spire. If like such a fun game, I
Yeah.
think it honestly works best, in my opinion, on iPhone or mobile. It originally came out on PC. Like there's a friend of the show, Tad. He plays it a bunch on PC. I guess there's a lot of mods on PC. So if you're into modding, like maybe PC would be the way to go. But if you like deck building games, check out Slay the Spire because it fucking rules. And now
And
we're
now.
back to the list.
Mhm.
Number 8 with 6 points. Evil Dead the game.
Fuck yeah,
This was
man.
one on your list. So you had this. Where was
Mhm.
this? Number 5, 4, number 5,
Number 5 for
number
me.
5.
Yeah. So Evil Dead the game, I fucking love it. I talked about it so much at the beginning of the year. I just fucking love this. I love Evil Dead. I love everything they've done with this game. It is a 3v1. It's a 4v1. So similar to something like Dead by Daylight, the difference is that you actually have the ability to fight back. And that is, I think, why I love this game so much. It's like all of these games, they normally restrict you from being able to do anything. The
Sure.
big monster, whatever the baddie is the one that ultimately has all of the power, and you're helpless. And I fucking hate games where I'm helpless. And Evil Dead is the game that took away the concept of that and spun it in a manner in which was like, hey, we can make a really cool Evil Dead game that looks incredible, that plays incredible, it is absolutely just chock filled with Easter eggs and fun nods to the movies and the TV show and the lore. And I love it. It's a bummer that we never got to play together, Patrick.
Yeah, you saying the thing about being able to fight back, I'm interested in trying this game with you because
Sure.
I played Dead by Daylight with you and the crew.
Hmm.
I think it was one night, and
Hmm.
I had a lot of fun with it. But that was actually like the biggest thing that I didn't like about it was that as a new player playing with a
Yeah.
bunch of experts, uh, obviously there's going to be a learning curve. Like I'm going to be
Sure.
a lot worse than everybody because it's the fucking first time I played it. But I really wish that I was able to do something more than just run around and like I had like some powers or whatever. But so this being able to actually fight back, I think would be a lot more my speed in this kind of a game, especially as someone like a newcomer to the
Yeah.
game. So I'm
And they've
interested.
been they've been dropping a bunch of like free content updates and everything like that. So there's new characters to play as. So they just dropped both Mia and David from the Evil Dead reboot from
Mm,
2016. They just
okay.
dropped them over the last few months. So there's and new weapons. And it's just such a fun game, especially for people who enjoy this series. Which I'm a diehard Evil Dead guy, so like it really hits extra hard for me. But I do
Sure.
think technically this game, even if it wasn't Evil Dead related, this game still would be really fucking good. And
Yeah.
honestly, it might even had a bigger fan base to be able to play it if there wasn't just Evil Dead, because I think that does turn people off because they're like, well, I don't know any of these characters. Why the fuck should I care? Why should I play this game? And here's the truth is you don't need to know anything to play this game. Just jump in,
Yeah.
have fun. Like it's
I
great.
mean, speaking from my own experience, like I like the Evil Dead movies. I've seen most of them. I didn't watch like the reboot show, but that was a barrier for me. Like I like the movies, but I don't like them enough to buy a video game based on the movie.
Yeah.
But no, like now hearing more about it is like, oh, this actually kind of sounds like it fucks. Uh, so yeah, I think you're probably right on that. That it might have been, it could have potentially been bigger if it wasn't Evil Dead themed. But
Sure.
Kamen.
Yes, sir. I think we know what's coming up next. And the Golden Beefy. The next award is going to be going to the game that is the best ongoing game. Now, Patrick, I went
Yes.
last, so it's your turn. What's the best ongoing game that you want to give a Golden Beefy to?
So I'm kind of going against the grain here, Kamen.
Okay.
I don't play a lot of ongoing games.
Sure.
We know I'm usually more story driven.
Yeah. Sure.
Not
Sure.
all the
Sure.
time. Not all the time. I like to have the occasional not story driven game, but ongoing game specifically is not typically a genre I play a ton of.
Hmm.
However, I did play a game this year that I think its legacy will be ongoing for
Hmm.
decades to come. And so I'm twisting the meaning of the award a little bit, but I think you're going to be okay with it because I'm giving the Golden Beefy to My Name is Mayo 3, which released
Really?
May of 2022 or March, one of the M months.
Okay.
Uh, I mean, I binged through 1, 2, and 3, which took all of like 3 hours,
Yeah.
mostly as like a joke to you, because you had talked about it before, and I was like, I had this idea like it would be a fun boost of serotonin for me to text Kamen a picture of 3 platinum trophies, all
Yeah.
for My Name is Mayo.
That's
That was
fair.
literally the only reason I did it, was to tell you I did. But I had a great time doing it. And while My Name is Mayo 3 was my least favorite of the 3, I really, really fundamentally respected that it went so much harder than it had any right to do and made me fucking sad.
Oh my
Like this
god, yeah.
that game, for going from a game where you just click on a jar of mayo 10,000 times to like telling you a story of like loss.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, I wasn't expecting this. So
Not at
kudos
all.
to you, Steve Mayo, or whoever made this game. So I'm giving it to My Name is Mayo 3. Kamen,
I love that.
what about you?
I'm actually gonna redo this just as the name says, and I'm gonna actually give the award for best ongoing game to Dead by Daylight.
Cool.
Now, though I'm more of a fan of the Evil Dead game, that game came out this year. And though I'm more of a fan of Rocket League, I think you guys are fucking tired of me talking about Rocket League. So, with that being said, I do want to go ahead and give a shout out to the devs and everyone who has supported this game. Dead by Daylight is super fucking cool. And it
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 is. It
brings it
is.
brings in a lot of really interesting stuff to the table. I mean, just this year alone, Michael Myers, we have Sadaku from the Ring series has been added into the game. Fucking I don't think Nemesis was this year, but we did get Albert Wesker. I mean, so like, you've got Silent Hill, you've got all of these video game horror games that have been brought in, as well as actual newly created characters and newly created maps for those characters. The game's really cool, and it has provided like hours of fucking laughable content
Yeah.
for the group, because we always like to try to play this shit all together. And I think it's like really fun to be able to get in with your friends, play a few rounds, have some laughs. And I can't wait to see like where this continues to go, because I definitely don't think the Dead by Daylight is slowing down anytime soon.
Yeah, for sure. Like that time we played together, I was so overwhelmed at first just because of the sheer amount of
Yeah.
content and options in there. And so like that I think is a testament to how much the developers are doing a fucking great job
Yeah.
for a
100%.
game that like there's so much content to it. Also, Mouth of the South, Liz McLean just sent a video to the Discord, a Dead by Daylight YouTube video. So the game, that's the universe doing universe things. Yeah, I respect it, and I think it's a great choice.
I
But
agree.
Cayman.
Yes.
Also, if you notice me like laughing with my muted mic when you said Sadaku, my brain it just did the thing where it like filled in what you were about to say, and I thought you were saying that Saddam Hussein was like a playable villain in this game.
Could you? Okay, so here's the thing with Dead by Daylight. If you've never played it before, you can dress your characters up. So like your killers can be dressed up in all sorts of weird ass outfits. I am just imagining that you just have Saddam Hussein from South Park in it, where he's got
Oh
like the
yeah.
little boy shorts,
Uh-huh.
and he's got like a little boy, like a little Boy Scout outfit. He's just like
Uh-huh.
waddling around. That would be
And
funny
they
as
do the
shit.
art style, yeah, where
Where his
yeah.
head's every time he kills someone, his head just is flopping back and forth.
Amazing. Amazing.
Amazing.
Well, back to the list. So we are now at number 7 on our favorite games of 2022. And this is a game that came and you've not played. This is from my list.
All right.
Number 7 with 6 points, Sifu.
Hell yeah.
Sifu
get
is a
behind that.
game. Yeah. So Sifu is a game that I think I've actually been talking for another show, Zach. I don't know that you've met Zach. He's a friend of college, or a friend from college of mine. And he got into Sifu and loved it. And he beat it recently because him and I had talked. I famously have not finished this game as much as I loved it because the final fight is so
Yeah.
difficult. And my style going through the game was to kind of rely on these like special moves. And the whole thing with the final boss is you can't use special moves. You just gotta fucking be a better fighter than him and block and parry and counter and all these things. And that was part of the game that I sometimes would be good at, but sometimes it just wouldn't work.
Sure.
And I kind of gave up. And they've just that similar to Dead by Daylight, they've continually been releasing new content. We also are almost last week talked about they just announced like a whole new mode. It just didn't make the cut for the news, but like that is they are continuing to release new content. And there is a plan to release more content. And it's a game that I think more people should give a shot to, especially because there is now an easy mode. Because that was, I think, one of the big barriers to entry was that it's a hard game.
Yeah.
And I haven't played the easy mode, so I don't know how much easier it is, but like it's not fun for everybody to get your face kicked in,
Sure.
especially on like boss fights. And that was there were a few times where I almost threw in the towel, but then it was like that Dark Souls, that Demon Souls, that Elden Ring like rush of like, I fucking finally did it. I tried this 15, 20 times and it finally worked. And so I hope that Sifu is a game that eventually you can try if it's like either free on PlayStation Plus or deeply discounted, because I think there's a strong possibility that you don't like it, but I would love for you to at least give it a shot when the price is right, because I think it's a really cool game. And because it's not, those kinds of games are not typically games I fuck with much either. That it's like, it's basically a fighting game, but like as a brawler instead of side by side like Mortal Kombat. So yeah, Sifu, number 7 on our list of the best games from 2022.
And the Golden Beefy for best game Patrick refuses to play goes to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, Patrick. It's because you're being a little bitch and you refuse to play with me, and it upsets me every goddamn time.
It's funny because I am also giving this award to Tiny Tina's Wonderlands. And this is not something this wasn't planned. This wasn't a bit. You had texted me because this is an award we did at the last year's Golden Beefies. And it was an award I forgot about that you're like, we need to bring this back. And I was like, you're right. I know exactly what I'm going to put down. And you're like, I do too. But I'm not sure if you like sneakily played it. I haven't. And it's not that I refuse to play it. It's that I just haven't yet, and now it's kind of becoming a bit. It's like the Bulletstorm bit. It's the Yakuza Like a Dragon bit. Like,
yeah. But you ended up playing a little bit of Yakuza Like a Dragon.
I did. I try to let you forget that because I hurt you by not liking it as much.
Well, it's because you couldn't make it through the first like 5 hours of the game.
Yeah,
it's like it's a JRPG. I'm sorry, but like,
I accept
that. That's how JRPGs work. Either you make it through the first 5 hours or you don't. And if you make it through the first 5 hours, most of those games will hook you.
You're not wrong.
If you can't make it, you're fucked. So
you're not wrong.
I'm glad that we agreed on that at least.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, Tiny Tina's Wonderland, and on PS5 there's a trial. I keep meaning to do the trial, and I keep fucking forgetting. We're back in the list, number 6. This is a game that wasn't on your list, but I know you played. With 7 points, the 6th favorite game of Spotlight Games, Stray.
Yes,
the cat game. I had this on my list at number 4.
Okay.
So since it wasn't on your list, all 7 points are from me. And this was just a game that it's the rare, maybe not rare, but it's that time when like you're so hyped about a game, and like it wasn't like the normal kind of hype. It wasn't like God of War Ragnarok hype. It was like, I just think it'll be really cool and fun and cute to play as a cat. And so the hype was sky high. And then for it to come out and actually deliver, I don't know that I would go as far as to say it exceeded expectations for me, but it delivered.
Sure.
And that, I think, in and of itself is a huge win, because it could have been fucking dog shit or cat shit.
Look at you go.
Look at me go. You liked Stray though, right?
I did actually, and we'll talk about my opinion on that in a little bit.
Fantastic. Well, then let's move on to another Golden Beefy. All
right, let's do it. What's the next Golden Beefy? Games? Best game we didn't play.
This is actually one that came from the audience. So I put out on our Instagram, I was asking if anyone had any fun awards that they wanted to have us talk about. And this friend of the show, Boston Mike, sent this in. And so I wanted to start by giving his answer since it was his idea. And his answer was Tunic.
That's a good option.
Which is a good option. It's a game that I never finished, but I did really enjoy. But yeah, Tunic. But Kamen, shout out to Boston Mike.
Shout out to Boston Mike.
What is your Golden Beefy for the best game you didn't play?
I'm giving the Golden Beefy to Xenoblade Chronicles 3.
Okay.
That is another one that like I am so excited to play and really want to play it, but just have not had the fucking time to devote to a game that's 100+ hours. And you know what? That's life. That's called being an adult, unfortunately.
100%. 100%.
Could you imagine if we actually had that time?
It would be nice. It was on sale this week, and I had like $30 of like Switch money from like.
Oh yeah, what did you end up doing with that?
I got Xenoblade. I just haven't tried it yet.
Good. Okay, good.
Yeah,
well,
it was. Yeah, it was about to expire, so I was like, I need to just use this so that I don't lose this money that I've earned. And so yeah, so I picked that. So I've never played a Xenoblade, so that's probably something that we'll talk about in at some point in Q1 of 2023. I don't know exactly when I'll get to it. But you know, that tracks. Like that, it got really good reviews. Like most places gave it 9s. So that makes sense.
What about you?
So for me, I was between a few things. I was between like Callisto.
Mhm.
I was between Marvel's Midnight Suns, because I kind of interpreted this as like, what is the game that I want to play the most that I
Sure.
haven't got to yet? But then I was thinking about a game that like kind of wasn't on my radar at all until reviews came out, and it was getting 10s from like a bunch of
Mm.
places, including IGN. And that is an Xbox game called Pentiment, released by the Obsidian.
Oh, that's right.
Very
Yeah.
different than any other Obsidian games,
Yeah.
because Obsidian, they did Fallout New Vegas, they did Outer Worlds a few years ago, but this is like a 2D
Mhm.
adventure game essentially, and the art style is like Renaissance-esque, like old England painting.
Mhm.
And so I'm really interested in giving it a shot because it's on Game Pass. And honestly, part of it is just like looking at the trailers, because piece of content that never came out, we were live reacted to the Xbox showcase,
Oh
and we
god,
both like kind of laughed Pentiment out of the room because
it's true.
the trailer just looked bad. Like
Yeah.
the art style was weird, like just very kind of different than what a video game normally looks like. And we were like, well, that game's going to be dog shit.
Yes.
And then it comes out and it's like, its Metacritic is like a 90.
It's wild.
So I'm like, I guess this game is fucking great, and I just missed it. And so I'm going to give it to Pentiment, and I
I like
expect
that.
to talk about that game at some point in the coming months.
Hell yeah, brother.
Well, hell yeah, brother.
Brother.
We're now to number 5. We're in the top 5. And also, production note, I realized I skipped a Golden Beefy, so we're going to circle back to the one I skipped in the next one. Okay. Number 5. This is a game that I have played, but
Mhm.
wasn't on my list. And it's a game that, if I was a good boy and got to it sooner, might have been a lot higher on this list. And that is Elden Ring with 8 points. Those 8 points from you, all from you.
Mhm. Yeah.
So, Kamen, tell us a little bit about your experience with Elden Ring and why it was so high on your list.
So Elden Ring was number 3 on my list, and which is wild that it's like game of the year for so many people. It was number 3 on my list. And here's the thing. I have a love-hate relationship with Elden Ring.
Sure.
I put in like 100 hours into it, and I would say easily 50 of the 100 hours were 100% out of spite.
Yeah. Yeah.
I literally hated the fuck out of majority of this game.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of really cool ideas, and I'm not a Souls guy, and I really only platinumed, and I platinumed this fucking game. I only platinumed this game just so I could make it like a joke at one point, and just to be like, it's not that hard.
Yeah. Of course.
I don't want
Of course.
to be such an ass. They're like, the game is cool as hell. Like, there's some really cool stuff going on in this game, and I really appreciate a lot of the game design. And some of the things they did. Here's the thing, though: the game, for the most part, and I don't care who you are, the game's ugly. Like,
It's
the game
not very
doesn't
pretty.
it doesn't look very good.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that graphically it has to look good, but I'm tired of the argument that people make that it's the most beautiful game ever made. That's a
Yeah, I
fucking
agree.
lie. It's
agree.
not. Like, Evil Dead, the game, is more attractive looking than fucking Elden Ring. With that being said, though, there's something about it. I don't know what it is. And I really think, if I had to try to make a guess, I think it really boils down to is the community around the game.
Yeah, I
The
think so.
conversations around the game, the speed runs around the game, all of the discourse that happened around it. I think that's what like elevates this game to a level that like I don't think you really ever see.
Yeah.
And because of that, like that's why I had it so high on my list.
I really regret not playing Elden Ring when it first came out,
Yeah.
because I feel like with Elden Ring, there was this magic around those first couple months when it released. And I just was so in on Horizon, and I didn't want to walk away from it. But I feel like Elden Ring was that rare video game where it kind of sparked that like old school playground.
Yeah.
This game, there's not it doesn't give you much. It doesn't tell you much. And so you kind of got to talk to people and figure things out like through conversation. And that's just a really cool thing that like doesn't It's just not
Yeah.
like kind of like PT we talked about during Spooklight games. Like it kind of it hit this note that games just have a really hard time hitting nowadays because there's just so much like media overload in games. Like walkthroughs the second a game comes out, you
Yeah.
can like everything about the game is revealed. But Elden Ring really wasn't that way because it was
No.
so big, there was so
Mhm.
much, and it tells you fucking nothing.
Yeah. Tells you
And
nothing.
I've been kind of playing through it more over Christmas break. I'm like close to 10 hours in now. I got past Margit, kind of the first big boss of the game, and like I get it now. Like I totally understand the magic around Elden Ring. I don't know that it's a game I'm going to finish. I want to. I don't know that I will, but like I don't know what it was, but something finally clicked, and I totally get like what makes Elden Ring fucking awesome.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
do, and I 100% agree with you that I do think, and I think this way about most FromSoft games is like if you miss that bubble on when everyone is attached to it, like you do miss some of that magic that's
yeah,
involved. And yeah, I don't know. Like I hate to admit it, but like I'm kind of excited to see if they make another game like that, like another open world game like Elden Ring. I'd play it
sure.
again.
I bet they will. I bet they will. I would not be surprised if the next obviously the next game that they've announced is Armored Core, but I
Yeah.
wouldn't be surprised if the next like Soulsborne game is Elden Ring 2. Is like a straight up sequel to Elden Ring.
I kind of really do hope that that's what they do because like I genuinely like enjoyed a good portion, but I also hated a lot of the things, and I
Yeah.
think the game got way too much praise for certain things that I was like, I don't think that game should be praised for that
Yeah.
specifically. And I'll just give like one example, and it's like, oh, did you know that like a month after release that they gave Patches a second part of his quest line? Like that probably should have been in the first
Yeah.
iteration of the game
Yeah.
and not 2 months after, because like I definitely feel like they were just like, oh, we don't have this finished yet.
Yeah.
Like that kind of stuff. And there's just other bits and bobs in terms of the mechanics that I was like, I just don't think that that actually was meant to be how it is. It just ended up being that way. And everyone's like, it's like when we talk about Elon Musk just fucking
Oh boy.
everything up, and you got the
Yeah.
people in the background, they're just like, what a mastermind.
Mhm.
You slammed your penis in a car door? Oh, what a
Yeah.
masterful move, sire. Like, shut the
How has
fuck
no
up.
one done this before?
Yeah, like, I love Miyazaki. I think he's like, he just seems like such a sweetheart, but like, maybe we should just temper that a little bit.
Yeah, I would hope if we do get a sequel that the sequel there's just like 5% more direction. Like I just need a little bit more because I really do think that that's if there is something that keeps me from finishing it, it's that. It's like I think I could see me getting to a point where I'm like I am tired of not really knowing what to do and I'm kind of done exploring. But
I agree, sir. I
John
agree.
in the chat, hey John. That's good. Okay. We're circling back to a Golden Beefy that I accidentally skipped because I'm a naughty, naughty boy, Kamen. Tell us about it.
All right. This Golden Beefy is going to the best game that we replayed this year. Patrick, why don't you start us off? I'm assuming it's probably The Last of Us Part 1.
Well, technically, it couldn't be because that was a new game
Oh,
of
brother.
an old game. So I haven't
Brother.
replayed The Last of Us Part 1, brother.
Brother.
But the game that I'm giving this to actually circles back to the very first Golden Beefy we gave, which is Ghostwire Tokyo for best game we forgot about. But I'm not giving this the award because I've not played Ghostwire Tokyo. I'm giving it to Jedi Fallen Order.
Ah.
And because I purchased Ghostwire Tokyo because I got sick.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this game is out now. Or actually, I didn't even get sick. I there was sick in my house and I was afraid I was gonna get sick. So I quarantined. And I was like, well, what else am I gonna do? I'm gonna play a video game. And
Fair.
so I got Ghostwire Tokyo. It was like because of what we talked about, it was already forgotten about. It was already on sale for like $35 and it had just come out like 3 weeks before. So I bought it and it just like wasn't hitting at first. And we're kind of like a couple weeks before that, Jedi Fallen Order had the PS5 patch come out. And I was like, you know what? I'm ready to replay Jedi Fallen Order. So what did I do? I fucking platinumed it for a second time because that game is so goddamn good. And it was honestly like one of my favorite gaming moments of 2022 was being locked in the room behind me for like a weekend and just completely binging for a second time Jedi Fallen Order and 100%ing that video game for the platinum.
Fuck
What
yeah.
about you, Kamen?
Why don't you take a wild guess?
Okay. It could only be one thing.
It's only one thing.
I'll say it on three.
One,
One, two,
two,
three.
Bulletstorm.
Bulletstorm. Yeah,
Fuck yeah, baby. Bulletstorm's a masterpiece. That's all I'm gonna say.
sure. I mean, what else is there to say? You know what else is a masterpiece, Cayman?
What's that?
Number 4 on our list.
All right.
Which
I have a feeling I can guess this one.
take a guess.
I don't want to because I don't want to spoil it if I'm wrong.
Sure. Okay, fair. Let me know if this was going to be your guess when I reveal that with 9 points, because it was my number 2 game of the year. So this game is not on your list. And that is Marvel Snap.
Okay. Here's the thing. That's not what I was going to guess. Here's the other thing. I genuinely had Marvel Snap on my list, but I was like, I'm going to remove Marvel Snap from my list because I don't know if I want to have it on here since it's a mobile game. And then I was like, nah, but I was like, you know what? Patrick probably will put it on, so fuck it, whatever.
With the way that the points shook out, if you put it on your list, it probably wouldn't have been better than 3 because number 1 and 2 those are the only other games that we had on our list combined, and I think you can probably guess what those are.
Yes.
But so Marvel Snap was my number 2 game of the year. I still cannot stop playing Marvel Snap. If Slay the Spire made my fucking hours usage on my phone go up by like 90%, Marvel Snap more than doubled it. Like, I do not put this game down. My collection level is like 1600 at this point. Like, I can't stop playing it. Like, I probably play 20 to 30 games a day of Marvel Snap because I'm obsessed with this game. I'm on like my 4th or 5th deck now. Like, I'm playing with a Wong Mystique deck at the moment. And this game is fucking, it's magic, Cayman.
I actually petitioned the DEA to add this onto the illegal substance list under the name of Black Tar Marvel Snap.
Yeah.
Just because of how addicted you are, Patrick.
It's so good.
Your wife messaged me and said, Cayman, we need an intervention. Patrick, stop playing Marvel Snap. I said, I know.
I'm not surprised. There was a day, maybe like a week and a half ago, that I'm in bed. I have work in the morning, and like I'm playing, and I have this idea for this Wong Mystique deck, and I build it, and I played for like 3 straight hours, and I went to bed at like 3:30 a.m. because I was like, I just wanted to test this deck out. And spoilers, it fucking slaps.
I love it. Honestly, I love that. I love the level of commitment you've given up.
Yeah, John in the chat. Interesting. Ben Brody did great. Ben Brody is the game director. He's the one that when we talked about this originally, he came from Hearthstone. And I was reading an article about Marvel Snap where the entire idea for Marvel Snap came from a friend of his who had a negative critique on Hearthstone. That was like, I was playing a game of Hearthstone and it took so long that my legs fell asleep when I was taking a shit. And so the whole idea was, how do we make a game like Hearthstone that you can finish in 2 minutes? And they fucking nailed it.
Patrick, what do you think about this? So this, John says, Sunspot turn 1, then Infinite turn 6, win game.
So it's an interesting tactic. There's two, it works, but a staple in every deck I make is Killmonger, and Killmonger destroys all 1-cost cards. So I always have Killmonger because a lot of people do this. And with Infinite, if someone skips turn 5, I know for a fact they're playing Infinite. So now I have a 33% chance to drop Shang-Chi on the right spot. And so it still burns me. Like, there's still times where I'm like, well, I'm fucked. But it's a good combo for sure.
You know what I love about this is that question sent you off down a weird ass rabbit hole.
Sure.
Almost as much as it does when anyone asks me a question about trash cinema. Like, we're gonna have a whole podcast dedicated nothing but Marvel Snap at this point.
I could have a Marvel Snap podcast. I play the game so much, and I'm so ingrained in this fucking game. But yeah, so that was my number 2. But it landed at number 4 on our list. What is next for? Okay, I know, I see what it is. Nope.
Does he?
This one.
Yes. The Golden Beefies. Just fucking fumble through that one, baby. The Golden Beefy for the best game that kind of sucks, but we still love it. This one is for me is going to go to Saints Row. Saints Row is a janky garbage dumpster fire mess of a shithole game, and I fucking loved it. It is like the trash cinema equivalent to video games. It's like I don't think nearly as good as Bulletstorm, but I don't know. There's something about it, man. Like I just really enjoyed Saints Row. I think that the game got probably the right amount of hate. I'm not gonna lie.
Sure.
But like I don't know. There was something about it which is so fucking stupid, but that made things so much funnier. Like just I just love like I love a video game that has no qualms with being a fucking video game. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
And this game is one of those where it's just there's so many moments that are just so fucking dumb. There's you being gunfights and like pull out some wild ass dumbass weapon. Like one of my favorites was like a pistol that had fucking boxing gloves at the end, and you could just run in like a machine gun and just be like boop, 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 with just fucking boxing gloves and to just launch people 1,000 feet in the air. Why? I don't know. The game's broken. That's why.
Sure.
It's like Goat Simulator, but Grand Theft Auto. I don't know how to explain it. It's just janky, and I had so much fucking fun playing it. Like I had, when you're like, I think a good sign of a video game is when you have like the one more hour, right?
Yeah.
And I had like 3 straight weeks of one more hour with Saints Row.
Sure.
Of just being like, I'm going to just like, hey, Sid, I'm going to jump on for 30 minutes before I come to bed. Like, okay, no worries. Jump on 3 hours later. I'm like, fuck, I got to go to bed. Like that was my experience with Saints Row. And that's exactly what I wanted. And I got it.
When an open world game can get that, like, just one more side quest.
Yeah.
Then that even if the game is fucking broken, then it's a special game for sure.
About you, I'm curious to see because you always play good games. You did play Peppa Pig though, so. Oh no!
I never would have ever expected that you guessed it. Best game that kind of sucks, but we still love it. My Friend Peppa Pig. And the reason that I'm giving My Friend Peppa Pig the Golden Beefy is because like there weren't many, like this was tough for me to choose. Like I used the GG app, which is like Letterboxd but for video games. Yeah. And I track every game I play throughout the year, and I'm going through and I'm like, no, I mean I liked this. Like Trek to Yomi I had some problems with, but like it doesn't suck. And like our next award, biggest disappointment that we'll get to, like, well, I'm not going to give this award to that because it was a disappointment. Like, I don't still love it. So I really like kind of by default, it had to be My Friend Peppa Pig. And even though if you go back to the episode in which I played My Friend Peppa Pig, and the first thing I said was, this is the fucking worst game I've ever played. I loved the experience of it. Like, it was really fun to then go talk about it on the podcast, and it just, everything around it. It's more so, for me, it's kind of like the best game that fucking sucks, but it was fun to do for the podcast is kind of the award, like the award for me.
I honestly love the fuck out of that.
Yeah. My Friend Peppa Pig. Don't play it because it's dog shit, but it was fun for the podcast.
I will say, go play Saints Row. It's not as bad as I think Peppa Pig is. So.
John says, I don't know what it is, but Peppa Pig has it. It is horrible game design, terrible writing, awful graphics, but it was fun for the podcast.
I love it.
We're now at number 3, Kamen. We're closing in on the final 3, the top 3 favorite video games from Spotlight Games in 2022. And this was not on my list.
I know exactly what this game is,
but kind of just by circumstance, because I've only put in a couple hours. Sure. And that is Pokemon Scarlet and Pokemon Violet.
Pokemon Scarlet is the best Pokemon game we've ever gotten outside of maybe the original. I don't know. Some people like to say, like, I think Platinum. A lot of people like to go Platinum Gold. For me, though, this was exactly what I wanted from a Pokemon game when I was a kid. Like, I wanted to be able to play Pokemon on my big screen. I wanted to play Pokemon in a full open world and actually get like the Pokemon experience that like I always wanted as a kid. And we've gotten so close to it. we had Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Let's Go Eevee that was getting a little bit closer. And then
Yeah.
we had Pokemon Legends Arceus, which I was like just one step closer. Pokemon Scarlet, Violet, it hits that. It's the first Pokemon game since I was a kid that hit that same level of like, this is exactly what I want. I'm still not done yet, but I've put over 60 hours into the game. I fucking loved every single minute of it.
Yeah.
Sure, there are problems with the game. Technically speaking, there are bugs and there are glitches, but I don't know. Like I didn't. It's not like I didn't play it at the same time everyone else did.
Sure.
But I didn't have any like game crashes. I didn't have any like super horrible issues that arose from the game that caused me to dislike it. And it worked so well for me. Like I really liked it. I really thought it was a great game. And I do think that a lot of people are going to be turned off by the idea of like all of these negative comments that are coming out around it. And I'm like, just shut the fuck up. Enjoy the game. It's good stuff.
Yeah. I'm laughing
You're
because
snickering over there.
I'm
with something.
snickering because fucking John just texted me during the show with this picture.
Oh no! Of
I don't know if
is that a Pikachu?
It's a thick Pikachu. I don't know that it's gonna. Do they do this? They do the hand behind it.
It sucks.
It's basically Pikachu with a fat fucking ass.
I mean,
and his number one or his first move is clap. So ass clap, and his second move is thunder cheeks. Flip a coin. If tails, thick Pikachu deals 10 damage to itself. But it's like a throw blanket. This thick Pikachu. It's a fucking Pokemon card as a throw blanket.
Sure.
Which,
you know what? Fuck it. We're moving on. What's the next Golden Beefy, Patrick?
Next Golden Beefy is going to be, I might give it to John as the biggest disappointment of 2022 after that. But so this next one going to be biggest disappointment.
Curious what year is this?
Yeah,
so I went first last. So
yeah. So this was another one that I kind of I was between a few.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like maybe Cyberpunk 2077, like the next gen patch, because it was like so hyped about the game before it ever came out. It comes out, obviously we've talked about 1,000 times that it comes out fucking busted. And then but I was like, once the next gen patch comes out, I will devour this game. And it just didn't hit for me. So but then I was like, is it Switch Sports?
That's a good call.
Because it's like Wii Sports was fucking magic and it was lightning in a bottle, and Switch Sports, I literally played it for one evening, but ultimately came in.
Yes.
I'm kind of cheating by getting to talk about 3 games here, but ultimately I am giving this award to Mario Strikers Battle League.
Honestly, I can see that. Yeah.
The reason being, like, I never played Mario Strikers as a kid. It just, as much of a soccer fan as I've always been, I don't think I ever knew about it as a child. So I didn't play it on GameCube. And so when they announced the new one, I was so excited because I love Mario sports games. I think they're a blast. And I was like, oh, I finally get to play a Mario soccer game as it's released. This one's going to have online play, and it's on the Switch. I'm going to get to play it on the go if I want. And it was similar to Mario Golf. I should have seen the writing on the wall after Mario Golf. It was released as like a shell of a game. And there was like one mode outside of online, and online you couldn't even, like, the online sucked. Like, it's 4 players on a team or 5 players on a team. I forget the number, but you can only play with one other person. Like, you can't do it to where like everyone is their own player. And it was just like, it was a game that I played it a fair amount. I probably put 10 or 12 hours into it. I like beat it. I did all the like cups in it, but once I was done, I've not touched it once since.
Yeah.
And it was a game that I honestly thought I was going to, that was going to be like my anchor through the year.
Yeah.
And like whenever I have a few minutes or I'm like watching something on the couch, I'll just play a match of Mario Strikers Battle League. And I've not touched it once since it came out after, I was finished with it. And so that ultimately, yeah, I pretty disappointed in how that shook out. And I think this to me says Mario sports games are like, they need to earn the trust back, because now it's been a few in a row where like they're kind of duds when they come out. But I'm curious what it is for you.
So I want to just take a second to actually.
Oh, sure.
So I did those. I was watching a video. I forgot who it was who did it, but they brought up like a good theory about it, and it was like what Nintendo has been doing recently with these games in particular is that they're releasing a game that's like a shell of a game. Judging from that point in time, like, okay, is there latch on? Are people latching on to the game? If they are, then we'll release additional content, and if not, we're just gonna move on to the next thing. But we're going to make our money back because people are going to buy it outright. And
Yeah.
then, we can dump some more stuff if it seems like people are enjoying it. If not, fuck it, we'll just move on. And that's kind of what they're doing right now. And Mario Strikers is a perfect example of that. And I agree. Disappointing.
I think that's a spot on theory because you look at Mario Golf, which sold really well.
Yeah.
And now there's a bunch of shit in that game. There's a whole like a lot of new content. And that was a game that when it came out was like bare bones.
Same with Mario Tennis, but Mario Tennis did not get the same attachment rate.
Exactly.
And just died.
And I have not heard, other than like a couple new characters with Battle League, I think they kind of are giving up on Battle League. I think you're probably, that's a good theory. I like that. I subscribe to that.
It sucks, but you're right.
It sucks.
So my biggest disappointment is actually a more recent game. And that is the Callisto Protocol.
A game you're currently playing.
Current game I am literally in the middle of playing right now. I'm going to go ahead and just tell you guys right now that as everyone who listens to the show should know, I love horror films, but I'm a little baby back bitch when it comes to horror video games, and it terrifies me. I now have sync lights, and Patrick is actually going to release a video here shortly of what it looks like when you play in my house and you play video games because it's dope as shit. That being said, here's my problem. I was expecting Dead Space, that level of fluidity.
Yeah.
This game doesn't have it. And not only does it not have it, this game is just the gameplay at times is actually more terrifying than the atmosphere of the game itself. I don't know which one I'm more worried about around the next corner, whether it's getting the shit scared out of me or having to actually play the game the way it's supposed to be played. And that's a horrible situation to be in. The character that you play as your character moves at a snail's pace. He's sluggish as hell. And just the actual combat in the game is the worst part of the entire game. If you were just like, this is a walking simulator with some light puzzles, I honestly would dig the fuck out of this.
Wow.
The problem is just the gameplay in this game is just not good.
That's so disappointing.
I on next episode, we can talk more about it because I literally could go on for hours and really deep dive into each little aspect of the game. What I can say is that there's a chance it gets better.
Yeah.
There is a chance it gets better because I'm only a few hours in. But knowing the fact that a few hours into this game is about halfway, that's not a good sign.
No, it's
so
not.
Like,
how's the story though?
Yeah, that's about it. I don't know.
Ugh.
4 hours in, and I'm just kind of fumbling around the space station or a prison planet, and I really haven't gotten much in terms of what the story is, and I don't even know if any story will come. I can say that Josh Duhamel's like all of the game is beautiful. Like they're like his face in the game is absolutely incredible. Same with Sam Witwer. They look great in the game, and going through these like horrible corridors and just bodies hanging everywhere and blood and guts all over the wall. It is terrifying.
Yeah.
But then you actually get into combat. And this is, I think the biggest problem is that is the game, is the combat, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, this shit sucks. There's also no new game plus from what's been said. And it's like, these are little things that are like, why is there no new game plus? Like, why can't I go back and play the game with actual weapons so I don't have to slog through this horrible melee combat, which is like the bulk. I've got 2 guns, but you have so few ammunition that you really have to rely on melee, and the melee sucks, and that's the bulk of it. And if there's more than 2 enemies on screen, you're pretty much dead. And like, it's just not the game is just not designed well. And like I said, I could go on tangents about this shit, but we have to keep within a time frame. So let's
we'll be circling back because I'm gonna definitely play that game soon too. And maybe we can bring Mike on the show and do like a little round table about Callisto. So now we're up to number 2. So we're within the final 2 video games.
Can I make a guess?
Of course you can make a guess. Come on.
Horizon Forbidden West.
spot on with 15 points. So this was my number 3 and your number 4.
Yep, sounds about right.
Yeah. So yeah, it got 8 from me and 7 from you. And this is a game, it's come up throughout the year where we really loved the game, but like it kind of soured as we went like on like late afterward, because the ending wasn't very good. It kind of did the thing where it's like, oh, well, there's going to be another one, like just for the sake of another one. But all that being said, it feels, I would feel, like it would be a little unfair to not say the game still fucking rules.
Oh yeah, no, the game's great.
Like it improved across the board from the original game.
I don't know. That card game in the game was the worst thing I've ever fucking played.
Not good. But like the basics of the game, like
graphics, no, yeah, this game
performance,
is
things
above.
like that. Like animation wise, like facial animations, side quests, like all of it, everything took a step up. And something that I remember us talking a lot about as I was kind of, because I toyed with the idea, like, would it be number 4 or 5 for me? But then I remember those side quests and how like the acting in the side quests and the writing in the side quests, and how this game really was narrative first. And it seems like they spent a lot of time and care writing all these secondary, tertiary characters that all really feel like fully fleshed out 3D characters, where a lot of times with video games, sometimes those kind of characters that don't matter as much can really just fall within like tropes and like cookie cutter type stuff. And I feel like this game really nailed building a world and the people in it feeling like real people. So I think this, even though the last few times we've talked about the Horizon, it's been from a place of negativity, I still think it was an achievement for the franchise. But Terry in the chat, you just brought up for a second, the ending of Horizon was disappointing. I wanted something more for it. We couldn't talk about this game without talking about the ending. Kamen.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say, the ending sucks.
Yeah.
And I do think that because of the ending, honestly, you know what the ending reminded me of? The Last Jedi.
Interesting.
Where
also,
it made the game feel more like just like a car. It just felt like a connective tissue between whatever's going to come next. And it didn't give it itself, like, it didn't feel like the ending like lent credence to like this being a fully fledged experience from start to finish.
Yeah.
And it was like, hey, we're where the first game has like an ending, and then we have like, here we're now going to step up into what's next. And that's great. But when the second game comes in and it just feels like it's supposed to be the dotted line between A and B, like that's where I start to have a lot of issues. And a lot of times with Horizon Forbidden West, that's where I felt it was. That it didn't feel like it just felt like more of like, hey, we're going to tell a story that its ending is going to be left so open because we're more concerned about what we're going to do with the universe after this than we are about telling one cohesive story.
Yeah.
And that's where it fell for me.
Yeah, and like going back to last week when we were talking about like now they're going to be doing a multiplayer game, and there's the VR game coming up. So like they're definitely turning this into a huge franchise. There's going to be a show on one of the platforms, I forget which one. And so yeah, and like it's so funny too, because while I'm playing the game, it really wasn't until the last like 30 minutes where everything fell apart, because I feel like leading up to that, like all the stuff with Carrie-Anne Moss's character and learning even more about like the original people when the world started ending, I felt like it was really going somewhere cool. And then it just falls off a cliff. And it was disappointing for sure. But still a fucking great game.
No, yeah, no, like everything about the game, it was just a market improvement on the first one. It just fell short. And also it was a little bloated. It could have probably been a little bit shorter, and we'd have been
could have been shorter. And I'm wondering too, in April we're getting the DLC Burning Shores. I'm wondering if that kind of fixes any of these problems we have, or if that doesn't, like if that ends up kind of just being its own thing. I don't know. We'll see. But with that being said, we only have a couple Golden Beefies to give out too, Kamen.
Sure. Next Golden Beefy we're going to be giving out is for the award for the best game we didn't get to finish, but absolutely planned to finish. And I'll go first with mine, which is Stray.
Okay.
Look, I thought Stray, I made it about halfway through Stray. I thought Stray was a really fun game.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the world building and everything around it. And I honestly don't even really remember why I fell off. I just did.
Sure.
And then it was like at that point, and I feel like it's really tough in our position, especially when we're constantly trying to cover new games and new things. Sure. And, you know, that's what people want, that we end up like, if we do fall off and we pick up the next thing, that it's hard to go back. And so like, I'm making a point to go back and finish Stray because I do feel like that game deserves its moment for me.
Yeah.
And it's just a cute game.
Oh, for sure.
It's just super cute.
Yeah, and it's such an easier thing to do when the game is only like 8 to 10 hours.
Yeah.
Where for me, the game that I'm giving it to is like a 200-hour game, which is Elden Ring. Like I talked about it, so I'm not gonna, you know, belabor the point, but it's a really cool game, and I'm finally in. But part of me wondering if I'm actually gonna finish it, even though I plan to finish it, is the length. Like, if I don't get to finish it by the time like the 2023 games start coming out, then like I think for the sake of the podcast and for the sake of like the conversation, I'm gonna have to put it in the back burner. And that's not a game you can like walk away from and come back to easily, because the further in you get, the harder everything becomes. And if I lose that like secondhand nature of the combat, then it's like I'd have to start over, and I wouldn't fucking do that.
Well, good news is you can probably beat the game in like 2.5 hours. Hey, speedrunners are doing it in 20 minutes.
Well, so. I mean, I don't know that I am ever going to be in that caliber, but if they can do it, I can do anything. I can do anything I set my mind to.
That's probably true.
That's probably true. Kamen, here we are.
I'm ready for it, Bubba.
The favorite, the number one game.
Number one,
baby. This is the number one for Spotlight Games of the Year Awards for 2022.
Unanimous.
Both of our number ones with 20 points. God of War Ragnarok. I think
easily.
How many games this year did we have an entire spoiler cast for?
That is true. That is, you know what I mean? That is, I know. I think only a handful, right? We did
two, and it was the number one and number two games.
Yeah. So guess what? Hey, look, I would say, look, I can tell you the game is a masterpiece. I can tell you the game is fucking beautiful. It's incredible. It is one of the most just awe-inspiring feats of video games, I think, that have ever been created. And I can tell you that. But if you want to hear more, and because for some fuck all reason you don't believe me, go listen to our like almost 2 hour long spoiler cast.
It's long.
Cam was fantastic. Cam Hawkins was on the episode with us. We did an incredible show on that. I mean, I don't think we can belabor the point anymore. Outside of the fact this game is fucking incredible.
It's fucking awesome. Yeah. What I can say about this game, I want to say two things about this game. If Terry is still in the chat, Terry texted me a very long, well thought out his thoughts, and it just came at a bad time for me because of Christmas. So I will be reading those and getting back to you, Terry, if you're still there. I don't think I forgot, because I realized I never said anything right now in this moment. But number two is all I have been wanting to do came in for the last 2 weeks. All I've wanted to do,
just replay it,
is go 100% the video game. Like, I want to go do all this shit. I want to get the platinum. I want to like do everything I possibly can. But I've been wanting to also play games like the Entropy Center, which I'm playing right now. And I've been wanting to like start Elden Ring for this podcast. And like, so I haven't been able to, but like all I want to do is play more God of War Ragnarok. And once I'm like through this like game of the year phase, I'm going to just dive in and do everything I possibly can that I still have not done in that game, because it's just so fucking good. I
agree. I agree.
Kamen.
Yes, sir.
We're here to the final Golden Beefy, which might sound redundant,
Mhm.
Best game of 2022. And the reason that we have best game as its own award is because, as I've been saying, and I've been trying to belabor the point, to use that word for the third time this podcast,
Mhm.
that our list of top 10 games was our favorites of 2022, not necessarily the best games of 2022. So now this award, we're each going to say what in our minds was the best video game, top to bottom, that we played this year. Kamen, what is the best game of 2022 for you?
That game is gonna go to Elden Ring.
Okay.
I know we talked at great length about it when I was explaining why it was on my list, and I know it seems incredible because I had it at number 3. Why would it be? But like Patrick said, those were our favorite games of the year. However, in this particular situation, we are talking about the best game. And I'm sorry, but the best game, and I think the reason why that I chose Elden Ring over God of War, one was because of the sense of community around the game and what it
Sure.
brought to that is such a rare feat for video games to ever do, is bring that many people together in this. It was almost like Pokemon Go, for like how that just like brought everyone together, and like it's an incredible moment, right? But I think the bigger point here is that as much as I love God of War, and I think God of War is honestly one of the best games ever made, I think one of the biggest problems we have with God of War is that there are other games that do a lot of that same thing.
Sure.
Whereas I think Elden Ring, as much as one could say, well, Elden Ring has some similarity. Like, obviously, it's a Souls game, and that's what FromSoft is known for. And there's been other Souls games that have come out, and it's got some Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild feel to it. I don't think that that's accurate at all. This game is its own entity. This game is completely different than anything I've ever played, from the fact that it literally tells you absolutely nothing to
Yeah.
just giving you the keys to the kingdom and just telling you to fuck off and explore. And that's games that, like, that never happens. Like,
Yeah.
that's games aren't designed like that. And I think the biggest point, and the reason why I put it where it did in this particular Golden Beefy, is that I think in the next few years, this is what we're going to see almost every Souls game turn into.
Sure.
It is
I
going to
would not be
create
surprised.
it is going to create its own subgenre of video games. And like,
Yeah.
because of that, I have to say, like, I do think this is the best game of 2022.
I could totally see Elden Ring, or rather the Soulsborne, like, subgenre, go the Assassin's Creed route, where like now there is the Elden Ring of Soulsborne games, and there is the Sekiro Shadows Die Twice or the Demon Souls, of where like there's going to be the linear smaller experiences, or
Mhm.
there's going to be the fucking massive 200 plus 300 plus hour, if you want to do every possible thing, game. And because it's been so successful, it won game of the year at the Game Awards. Like, it's one game of the year from so many places
And it's
that they would,
sold.
and
Oh
it
my
sold
god.
so many fucking copies that, like, they'd be silly not to double down and do this more. So yeah,
But I
I
mean,
respect.
I guess to my point is, like, there's gonna like we're going to see other studios are going to be trying to emulate this
Yeah, you're
into
right.
its own thing, not just FromSoft, but like other games, other companies are going to start trying to make games just like this,
Yeah,
that are going to be completely vague and out of nowhere, like, just, and it's going to, and we're gonna, so just sorry, you're gonna see an influx of these games coming soon.
yeah.
But there's a reason why, and it's because this game was genuinely something different, and
George
that's
R. Martin is going to start writing for just so many video games.
Patrick. I have a feeling I know, but
But I want to hear your guess on this.
I'm gonna go with God of War. I'm gonna go with God of War.
So it was God of War Ragnarok
Mm-hmm.
for most of the planning of this,
Interesting.
but I pivoted.
Okay.
And because here's the thing, Cayman. We've been doing this podcast now for a year and some change,
Mm-hmm.
15, 16 months. And I'd be goddamned if I didn't get to have an opportunity to talk about The Last of Us on this podcast. The Last of Us Part 1, remake from the ground up, quote unquote. Come
I
on,
love it.
it's my favorite game of all time. So it's got to be the best game
Honestly,
of 2022,
that's fine. I'll take
right?
it. Yeah.
But a really, really close second. And honestly, my real answer would be God of War Ragnarok,
Sure.
because it's a new game. But yeah, I mean, look, The Last of Us Part 1 on PS5, it's the same game, but it looks fucking better and it runs better. And like, so it's like, well, it was my favorite game of all time. Like, it's kind of by default, right?
It's kind of like Bulletstorm. There's really not much you can do to make it better.
It goes The Last of Us Part 1 for PS5. It goes God of War Ragnarok for PS5. It goes My Friend Peppa Pig for PS4, PS5, Xbox One, Series X, NS, Nintendo Switch, probably mobile, PC, Apple, Linux, every device ever. Number 3, My Friend Peppa Pig.
I love it.
And that, my friends and my sweet dumpster boy, is it for the I'm getting a special message. We have a special alert, Kamen. We have a bonus award.
A bonus award?
A bonus award. I didn't see this in the show notes, but I'm getting word right now that we're having a bonus award. And that's for the best movie from 1997 award, Kamen.
Oh God. Hold on. Okay. I've got it here. All right. And
it's another unanimous decision, I believe.
Yeah, I think it is. And the Golden Beefy for the best movie from 1997 is Good Burger.
Good Burger.
Good Burger.
Home of the Good Burger.
Home of the Good Burger. May I take your order? So it's always Good Burger, guys.
Yeah, I mean, come on. There are a few movies that are similar to The Last of Us Part 1, perfect from start to finish. It rips your heart out. It steps on it. It takes you through a journey that you never expected. And it gives you one of the most beloved characters in the history of art, which is Kel. And
that is true.
His character in that movie, it's unbelievable. John in the chat trying to say it's The Fifth Element.
That's not accurate.
That's not accurate.
It's not accurate. It's always a Good Burger. Home of the Good Burger. Man,
can I take your order? Yeah. Like, I would accept Dante's Peak. I would consider Con Air, but like, it's Good Burger.
It's always good, Patrick. It's always Good Burger.
Yeah, it's always
Patrick. It's always Good Burger. You know, it always upsets me because you know what won? Fucking Titanic.
Yeah.
And like garbage. James Cameron, like, go fuck yourself, bro.
Yeah.
James Cameron, you couldn't even imagine making a movie like Good Burger.
Yeah.
Home of the Good Burger.
Although,
man, take your order.
Can we actually quickly think through what a Jim Cameron Good Burger would look like, though?
Good God. He would just fucking make, like, I don't know, he'd just rip off the plot to fucking like Watership Down.
Yeah.
And be like, this is Good Burger.
Yeah.
And you know what they wouldn't say in it, though?
Welcome to Good Burger.
Home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order?
Can I take your order? Yeah.
They would. Sure. He wouldn't do that. He wouldn't do that because he's a fucking bastard.
Yeah.
God damn.
100%. Well, Kamen.
Yeah.
That's our show. Those are the Golden Beefies for 2022, the Spotlight Games of the Year Award. I would like to ask our audience to send in your recipients. If you want to go as far as giving us a top 10, or if as you're going through the show, you were thinking through what your best ongoing game, the best game that you replayed, your biggest disappointment, all those, send all that and more to mail@spotlightgames.net, or you can DM us on Twitter @SpotGamesPod, or on Instagram and TikTok @SpotlightGamesPod. And while you're at it, follow us on Twitch, twitch.tv/SpotlightGamesPod, so that you're notified when we go live, so you can be part of the conversation. Kamen, we didn't, because of the way that the show went, we didn't get a chance to talk about Save Trash Cinema at the top of the show. So I want to close out the episode by talking a little bit about Save Trash Cinema, and then let's go home and let's go play some video games.
Yeah, so Save Trash Cinema took the week off this week. We wanted to celebrate the holidays, our friends, families, and worst of enemies, and fuck Keith.
Yep.
And so we took it off. The truth of the matter is that Save Trash Cinema, a lot of work goes into a single episode. And so we just thought it would be nice to take a little bit of break over the holidays so that we all weren't stressing out over. But don't worry, we will be back next week with our New Year's episode, which I'm delighted to say is New Year's Evil. So we'll be starting off the year right. And then after that, we're actually going to be doing a very special episode, a 1-year episode of in review of Save Trash Cinema, which we're very excited about. So thank you to everyone who checks out that show as well. We love you guys and all the support that you've given us on the other show. as well as here. I mean, fuck yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Like this being the last episode of the year, I definitely want to say, like, I feel like this year, the first few months that we were doing the podcast, like last year, the Golden Beefies, we were talking about TV, film, fucking books. We gave the Spotlight Games podcast a bunch of awards for podcast of the year.
Sure.
And because we were still kind of trying to figure out what the Spotlight Games podcast was going to be. And I feel like this year we have come a long way in figuring out what this little podcast is. And we've seen some good growth. We have good friends in the chat every week that we love talking about video games with. So for those of you that are listening, whether you're live or not live, YouTube, podcasts, or you just follow us on socials, thanks for being here. We really appreciate you. And I hope that you enjoy the content that we're putting together for you, because we enjoy making it, and we hope to see you around next year. And hey, maybe you got a friend out there. Maybe you got a parent, a grandparent, a granddaughter, even.
Never Keith.
Never Keith. Don't tell Keith, but
fuck that guy.
Spread the word. Spread the word, because I think we make good shit, and I would like for more people to see our shit, both this and Save Trash Cinema. So
yeah, no, absolutely. We put our hearts and souls into every episode, whether it might not seem like it when we talk about bidets for 6 minutes. But you know what? It is who we are. But I do, at least I think I can speak for both of us when we say that we appreciate each and every one of you and everything that you've done supporting us. And we're very excited to keep the train running in 2023.
Ooh. The spirit of 2022 is leaving us. Have a happy new year. We love you. We thank you. And we'll see you on the next one.